Welcome to this week's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Josh Hasko, attorney and president at Messerli Kramer. Thanks for joining me, Josh.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
No, it's great to have you on the program. It was great to meet you in person a couple weeks ago. We were attending the NIFA conference in Minneapolis. Any friend of Dave Schlotteroff is a friend of mine. He speaks very highly of you.
Thank you.
Looking forward to kind of learning more about your career, Josh, and what the firm does.
Great. Great.
So I guess I'll just kind of start right off. Josh, do you mind just kind of walking through your career to date?
Sure. Sure. Well, thank you again for having me on. My name is Josh Hasko, and I am the president of Messerli Kramer here in Minneapolis. My personal practice is creditor remedies and equipment finance, often on the enforcement and the litigation side. I do some commercial litigation as well. Our firm is a full service law firm. We are based in Minneapolis, but we've got some satellite offices throughout the upper Midwest, and we handle matters really around the country. Our Minneapolis office, where I am based, we've got corporate lawyers, banking and finance lawyers, real estate lawyers, estate planners, employment law, family law, bankruptcy, and kind of your typical business law firm. We've also got a group that is a government relations lobbying presence out at the Minnesota State Capitol. So they will represent clients and some of our clients downtown, a lot of cross work going on in high profile and behind the scenes, and tax issues and other matters that go up before the government on both sides, really. And then we've got kind of a consumer collection group that operates within our law firm also on a high volume basis. And so I have been president since 2019 of the firm, which, going into COVID, it wasn't really a great time to start over as a president or start as a president. But I've been at the firm since about 2007. Like a lot of lawyers, I started at a larger firm, about 125 lawyers or so, a Minneapolis-based law firm. I came here in 2007, and so my career, I was always doing bankruptcy. I was always doing creditor remedies. And when I got here, it started to progress into equipment leasing as a specialty through some of the lawyers that were here, Joe Lawver in particular. And he introduced me, and he got me, involved in some of the national organizations. And then as my career progressed, like I said, in 2019, I took over as the president. And so since then, I've been both a full-time practicing lawyer and the president of the law firm.
So now, from a president of the law firm, you oversee, I guess, all operations for all those different divisions?
Yeah, we've got a board of directors, and the division chairs of our three main offices sit on the board, along with a couple of at-large members and myself. And so, yeah, we run the operations of the law firm.
How many people do you have in the firm?
We've got, I think right now we're at about 57 lawyers. Varies from time to time. I think we have two new people that just joined us, so maybe we're up to 59. But we've got over 300 employees because of our collection. So, we've got a lot of people that rely on some of the decisions that we're making.
That's big, man. I mean, I think of what it's like to run a consulting company and bill, let alone we only have 10, let alone like it's like almost 60 people. And it's like that's like, you have your cases in front of you on your desk, and then you have the firms stuff.
It's Just like anything, right? Time management.
Let
It
me know
when
if you
one,
let me know if you figured out the time management thing.
yeah, I have not. I have not. You just, you try to stop time every once in a while and get everything you can done in the same hour. But we've got a pretty good process going here. I think that having been the president of the law firm makes me a significantly stronger lawyer. I've now run a business from the inside. As it relates specifically to equipment leasing, I've been a lessee, or at least our company, our law firm has been, right? So you see kind of what a customer might think about on a leasing transaction. Um, and because we're always representing the lessors, and we think about things from an enforcement standpoint, and so having those experiences have helped make me a better lawyer for sure.
Perfect. Thank you for walking through that. Yeah, I mean, when I was before we hit record, you were talking through that. It's a lot. You got a lot of responsibility, a lot riding on your shoulders. So
Yeah,
kudos to you,
I
especially in 2019, going right into COVID. It's like, give me a little
yeah, it
break.
was it was a very much trial by fire, right? I
Yeah.
think I took over, and within 5 or 6 months, I took over in the end of 19, fourth quarter of 19, and by March of
Well,
2020.
especially in the events of Minnesota, Minneapolis, I guess in that time too, it's even more of a
Oh yeah,
thing. So
we had I mean, our office is downtown. We just moved into a brand new office.
uh,
Stayed downtown Minneapolis, but we just moved in the last in August, so a couple months. And we've tried to make a commitment to stay in the city, contribute to the economy, keep our people, flexible in how they're working. But that's been a challenge. The everything that happened in COVID and the riots was a huge challenge to the city of Minneapolis and remains one.
yeah, I mean, it's still one of my favorite cities to go to. Some good food choices. It's just it's nice to see some of the areas coming back. Like anything else,
Absolutely.
just
I
gonna
think
take
people
some
really
time.
liked the conference that was here, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and I mean, Minnesota is one of the hotbeds. I mean, you had Lion Financial, Schwann's, and all that stuff. One of the first ones.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
great. So let's talk about the law firm. I know you mentioned you do everything. Like, how long's the firm been around?
We've been around for about 65 years or so.
Okay.
Um, it was started by two people who I worked with when I first got here, Bill Messerli, who was on the corporate side, and Ross Kramer, who was a lobbyist in our St. Paul group. So, you know, uh, you do feel a sense of responsibility to the people who started the firm, especially when you knew them and you know them and you worked with them. Um, and so as we had kind of a leadership turnover, right, a succession turnover, it was good to have people who worked with those two.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And I know you mentioned you have different satellite offices in the Midwest. And can you guys basically you have some representation in all the states?
Yeah, not in every state, no, but it's one of the things that the equipment leasing network that I've built for myself has been very helpful to my clients and to me because I don't need to be in every single state. But I don't want to pick a lawyer out of out of Google, right,
Right.
or off the internet. I want to call somebody who I know, even if it's something that they're not going to do, but they can make a referral for me.
Absolutely. I mean, we'll get to the trade associations here momentarily, but
Hmm.
so from an equipment finance perspective, what are you doing? What type of work are you doing with organizations, Josh?
My work, I'm heavily focused on the enforcement side. So enforcing the equipment lease documents, replevins, commercial collections, things of that nature. But having done it for quite some time now, I can bring a lot of value on the front end also, right? We know what types of provisions we're looking for to enforce an agreement. So you want to make sure that when you're reviewing the documents that someone has on the front end, that those provisions exist. We've certainly all tried to enforce documents where you're missing something, and there's ways to try to fix it sometimes, and you try to do that. But if you can anticipate it and deal with it, especially while people are trying to do a deal and everybody's friendly, it's much easier than when you're trying to enforce a deal on the back end and people are not talking to each other and you're already in a lawsuit or something like that. Um, so that's most of my practice. We handle both front and back end work, and like I said, the majority of my stuff has been on the litigation side.
From I guess just from a practice perspective, how difficult is it when you go into kind of a newer client and you sit there and say, look, can we do a analysis of the front end? Because, and the only reason I'm saying that is just I think of it back to like technology, right? Where a lot of
Sure.
people unfortunately call me when everything's on fire or they're
Right,
at that
right.
stage and now we have to go fix stuff that we could have fixed if they would have brought us in sooner.
Yeah,
Is it similar like that? Sorry to ask that question, just more of a curiosity factor.
I think I think if you were trying to think like a lessor, think like your clients. One of the things they're going to try to do is minimize the risk going forward, try to limit what could be a very expensive lawsuit if they could deal with it up front. And you want to try to anticipate issues. And so we've been through enough of these that we know we can easily pinpoint a few things if you don't see it in a document. Um, I get it. It costs money and it's expensive to go through a full doc review,
Or
but it can save you time on the back end and it can save you a lot of money on the back end, quite frankly.
and you hit the nail on the head. Let's go through it while it's not an issue, just to make
Exactly.
sure if this issue presents itself, we know we're protected. So
Exactly.
thank you. And then from an industry perspective, I think before I hit record, I was mentioning I think there was almost a record attendance at the ELFA annual this year. So
Hmm.
there's definitely a lot more optimism right now as there was towards the beginning of the year. However, from a default perspective, people in certain vertical or asset classes are still struggling. So
Yeah.
I guess from an industry perspective, you guys do collections. You know, you've been through some of these cycles before. I guess what are your thoughts, Josh, on
I think the interesting thing about this one, and I agree with you. I think the industry is doing well, but bankruptcies are up, Chapter 11s are up, right? They're up in Minnesota, they're up nationally, and I think the issue is just some of the uncertainty. You've got uncertainty with tariffs. We had an election here, yesterday. You've got uncertainty with things that are going on in the in the industry and in politics that are impacting the industry. Um, we don't know exactly what's going to happen with tariffs, and it changes, all the time. In Minnesota, there's a lot of clients that are in the ag industry, right? And now you've got farmers. I mean, the buzzwords around here, the big crop that people talk about are soybeans, right? And no one's going to buy soybeans. And then, a week ago or so, the president came out and made a deal with China about soybeans. And so that's the type of uncertainty, and we don't know
sure.
what people are going to do. And so a farmer customer may not be able to invest and may not be able to purchase equipment if they're not going to have a buyer. And then something like that flips so quickly. We will see, I think, if there is activity toward the end of the year here as people are trying to get purchases into calendar year 25. And we'll see if we see a little bit of a change of an uptick on the ag side. I mean, manufacturing, people still are trying to figure out how to deal with the potential for tariffs. Um, I've seen situations where a manufacturer puts in a line item about tariff charges and tries to pass that on to their customer. And from a lessor perspective, from a finance company perspective, you look at that invoice and you see that, and you're not paying for anything that is necessarily happened already. It might not be the right number. And, you know, we saw when I told this story at the panel at NIFA, where we saw a furniture manufacturer put a line item in. We did a little bit more digging. We found out that the furniture was being manufactured in the United States. And so we pushed back on it and said, I don't understand. And so it's just people, manufacturers don't always understand. I mean, everybody, the uncertainty is there. And so you're just watching people, deal with it differently. And so I think that's the biggest issue that we're challenged with right now.
Well, I think a lot of that probably stems from some of the, was it residuals or, the supply chain stuff that happened throughout COVID, right? Where it's like you walked in, you bought a piece of equipment here. By the time it was delivered 18 months later, all of a sudden it's worth like almost double, but you still have the rate. So I think some of those things were people trying to hedge against that, but from a legal perspective, that's an interesting.
And it was, I mean, think about the uncertainty during COVID, right? There was, there was a time period when deferrals and forbearance agreements were the name of the game because nobody wanted to take the equipment back. It wasn't worth anything. Then, as you said, go fast forward a little bit, and now the used market is on fire because nobody can get new equipment. So the uncertainty is, I guess, that maybe that's the constant is uncertainty.
How do you put that into case law?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly.
Obviously, that's not a real question. I guess going into 2020, the soybean thing's interesting. I remember listening. I read an article talking about that the other day because it's not like you can exactly just go out tomorrow. It's there next month. So that is interesting.
And there seems to be a lot of inventory.
Okay,
driving around ag dealerships.
That's good, but it's kind of like,
right.
what a like I guess a monkey off somebody's back.
And unfortunately, it's a hot political topic, right? I mean, that all the politicians are running on soybeans. I mean, that it really is a big buzz phrase, and practical for so many people.
100%. I mean, that's ag is one of your number one. I don't even know from an economy perspective in Minnesota what that is, but I know it's big. I just know a lot of ag lessors up there. So
right.
So going into, I guess, another month left in this year. So from a 2026 perspective, just I think more optimism going into next year compared to what it was like now. If you fast forward or reversed, I guess, 12 months ago, would you say there's probably more optimism?
I think that's right.
Awesome. So I know we talked a little bit before about the network of attorneys and equipment finance that you met throughout the year. Assuming you probably met these individuals at a NIFA conference or an ELFA conference. So I wanted to kind of talk about, the value of those trade associations and what they've meant to your career and the firm's success to date.
I mean, they've been invaluable. They've created a network for me and for others where you really do have lawyers who know what they're talking about and really good lawyers all over the country who you can refer clients to, you can consult with. It's helpful for our firm, of course, if someone says, hey, I need an employment lawyer in Dallas. I know who I'm gonna reach out to, even if it has nothing to do with equipment leasing, because they're gonna know somebody, or maybe they have somebody in their law firm. But for me personally and for my clients, it allows us to quickly get local representation and if we're enforcing, a lot of my clients have Minnesota jurisdiction, right? If they're a Minnesota-based bank or they're a Minnesota-based company, and then we docket those judgments and we try to enforce them in the other states. So having somebody who knows how to do that is very helpful. And I like to think that I can provide the same back to somebody else. And through these organizations, we become friends. And so you can pick up the phone and talk to somebody, um, and get their perspective. You can hang out with them and, have a meal at one of these conferences. And it goes beyond just professional relationships. I mean, I've
That's
been
perfect.
trying to think, I think my first ELFA legal forum was probably in like 2012, maybe 20, somewhere in there. We were in
Eh,
Charleston. I started going to NIFA in like 2015 or so. So I've, and the legal forums at the ELFA legal forums for me are really a good opportunity because the lawyers are very talented and smart, and so the materials that get presented are top notch. And
and they're
then
and they're and they're and they're very specific to what
exactly.
you're dealing with. So
Exactly. This isn't like you go to a random conference where two sessions are important. This is every single session is important and it's useful, and you can bring it back to your clients. We will often do that. We'll kind of listen to what people are dealing with on the coast and bring it back to our clients. Here's what's coming, right? Here are some of the issues that people are dealing with, and it's a value add for our clients for sure.
oh, no, that's big. And and when you're referring your clients to other states, that trust factor is big, right? I mean,
Huge.
you make a bad referral, they might not come back to you.
Right. They're looking to me, right? This is part of what I bring to the table is that I have these people who I have gotten to know and gotten to trust and worked with. Um, and then they're looking for me to make a recommendation.
And kudos for you for investing the time because it is a commitment, especially with all the hats that you wear at the firm and making the time investment to go to these conferences. Yeah, now NIFA was in your backyard, a little less
Yeah,
of
that
a
one worked out well this year.
that's always nice. I mean, fortunately, like I said, you live there. There's always at least one or two Minneapolis events a year. But investing the time, like you said, to go to Charleston, go to wherever these events are. I want to look at your desk when you come back. So
Right.
work's still going to be there, but you're investing the time to make sure that these people you're referring to, you can have that shape.
And I've had the opportunity to get, involved with the organizations, uh, and have some presentation opportunities, and that gives you the ability to get to know people a little bit more. I presented at the ELFA Legal, and this last one we were on the panel. I had the chance to serve as the chair of the legal committee of NIFA for a little while. That was
Huh?
also during that COVID period. So some of it was equipment leasing, and some of it was trying to negotiate with the hotels for the conferences that we weren't going to have. We reworked the bylaws to have Zoom voting and remote meetings and things like that. And so, again, that's a good example of where you bring that experience and you compare it to your work experience and being president of the law firm. And everybody's dealing at that time. Everybody was kind of dealing with the same issues. Um, so there was some overlap, which made it nice.
Absolutely. So were you chair of the legal committee when NIFA had to move the hotel at the last minute because it wasn't ready?
Let's see.
Well,
It was
we,
kind of,
we need to go into specifics. This is more of a curiosity factor.
yeah, I was going to say 2018, I think. And in fact, some of the people who were mentors to me in the industry,
Yeah,
Andy Alper, Barry Marks,
yeah,
who, by the way, is also at our firm and has been a huge mentor to me, along with Joe Lover. But Andy
huh,
and Barry and Ken Peters, and there were a few of us sitting at the legal committee table at one of the conferences. I think we were in Las Vegas, maybe. And they had all had the opportunity to be chair of the legal committee and recommended it. So I thought it sounded like a great idea. And so that's how I just got into it, was sitting at a table with people who had done it and thought it was a positive experience. So, um, but there's been a lot of other people throughout the industry that have been mentors and helpful to teach you not only the value of the legal work, but of the networking, and expanding your reach to benefit your clients.
I think you just listed a multitude of reasons why I've been in this industry for 20 years and have zero interest in getting out.
Right. I mean,
it's not just in the legal side. I think it's the industry as a whole. People are like, hey, what do you do? And they just kind of pick you into bring you around and try to introduce you to as many people as they possibly can.
Right. Right. I mean, that's kind of how we got into, like I said, I worked with Joe Lauber, who had been in this industry for a long time. But very quickly, I kind of developed my own network, right? That was different from his. And I mean, this last conference was the first time I had an opportunity to bring a colleague with me, as well. And he's, earlier in his career. And so he was meeting his own people as well. And it was, I mean, people have been very welcoming in all of these organizations.
So the next question I have for you is, what advice would you have for a new attorney walking into equipment finance?
I think you need to understand and learn the law right away, because the networks and everything, it only works if you know what you're doing, right? So you need to learn the law. There is nuance to it. There are plenty of people who have been through it and can give you tips as you're dealing with it. But you got to have a basic understanding of what you're doing. And then you've got to build your network. I mean, I think to me, that seems like the first things I would be doing if I was starting again. And that's what I would tell somebody. And these are things that are in addition to the billable hour, and they're in addition to firm requirements. But if this is going to be your career, then you have to invest the time in order to bring the most value to your clients.
Phenomenal advice. You've got to go above and beyond.
I mean, you can't fake it. You got to do it.
Sometimes there's not dollars associated with you going above and beyond. You got to put it on.
Right. But if you want to, I mean, if this is going to be your career, you got to invest the time.
So Josh, I ask everyone who comes on the program to give me a little fun fact about themselves. So what do you enjoy doing outside of the 100 hours a week that you work?
Let's see. Fun fact. I mean, I'm a huge sports guy. So when my kids were younger, I coached all their teams. I mean, youth baseball was a passion. I feel like you're, teaching a foreign language to kids to keep this sport going. But I'm a big sports guy, and even though we're up here in Big Ten country, my daughters, I have twin daughters, and they are freshmen at University of Florida and University of Georgia. So the latest go around for me and my wife has been SEC football, which has been kind of a fun new passion of ours, I guess you'd say, and a lot of fun. But I'm a sports guy.
So your daughter's very intelligent from a climate perspective.
Oh yeah, it was top of the list. Great education, warmer temperature. I think that was their criteria.
It's like, honey, you can go wherever you want. Try to make it in far distance, like.
Yep.
So just two, empty nest now?
No, I've actually got a son who's a junior in high school as well.
Just seeing if he follows in his sister's footprints and wants to go SEC or
We'll see.
12, just to kind of, as long as he doesn't go to where, like, who's Minnesota's biggest rival? Wisconsin.
Well, my wife and I went to Wisconsin, so.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
So Minnesota's part of the rivalry.
Okay. Just no Ohio State then. Fair enough.
Yep. Yeah. This is not a strong year for Wisconsin football.
So it is. I think my team's 3-6. So let's move on. Basketball, I think it started.
Right.
But Josh, my final question I have for you, sir, is why should someone want to do business with Josh Hasko?
I mean, it's a great question. There's a lot of lawyers out there. I think what you need to do is you need to find somebody who you trust. And our firm in this industry, we have spent the time. I have spent the time to really invest in the industry, get to know folks in the industry, and understand the law. And what you're going to get from us is you're going to get immediate touch points. You're going to talk to me. You're not going to, you don't have to go through the process. We're going to give practical advice. We're going to look at the situation and try to figure out what's the fastest, cheapest, easiest way to resolve it, and how to get the most leverage in a situation in order to get the best result that you possibly can. I think our experience and our network just bring a lot to the table. And I hope people like working with us. I like working with clients in this industry, and it's been a good fit.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining me today, Josh. Great to hear your story. Great to learn more about the firm. And congratulations on all your success to date. And yeah, looking forward to our paths crossing in the near future, sir.
Thank you very much. Like I said, I really appreciate the opportunity. This has been great.
Thank you, sir. Take care.